It has been 18 years since the 9/11 attacks, but the families of the victims are still finding that their own government, our government, the U.S. government, is standing in the way of justice. And that's not a metaphor, like literally standing in the way. A group of them, people whose loved ones were killed on 9/11, are suing Saudi Arabia for its alleged role in the attacks. But federal officials in this country still, for some reason, will not declassify a 2012 report that detailed Saudi ties to the 9/11 hijackers, and there were many ties. According to the Department of Justice, providing hope and closure to the families of victims would somehow endanger national security. Presidential candidate and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard will respond to that in just a minute, but first tonight we want to talk to two men at the very center of this. Chris Gansey and Brett Eagleson both lost their fathers on 9/11, and they're in the group suing the Saudi government over this. They join us tonight. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming. So I want to know, and I'll just go this way, am I overstating the degree to which the U.S. government is standing in the way of getting this information?
No, it's been 20 years. Like, there's no reason why the government has declared state secrets on something that happened 20 years
ago. So what are you looking to find?
Well, I mean, personally, I want to find the truth. Did a foreign power assist in the murder of my father 20 years ago and 3,000 other Americans?
So Tucker, I just wanted to say this. First of all, thank you, because you're the only host on any cable news network that's had the courage to talk about our story.
Well, it's such an obvious
so you
question.
Deserve credit.
Like, why don't we know
You
the
deserve
answer?
credit. And if the president is listening tonight, and I hope that he is, he needs to know a couple things. Chris and I shouldn't know each other, okay? Our government failed us 18 years ago, and they're failing us again today. Our FBI failed us 18 years ago, and a couple weeks ago, they invoked state secrets against us, which is the first time it's ever been done in any criminal case in the history of this country. What are they protecting?
On behalf of the Saudi government.
On behalf of the Saudi government, our FBI, and I want to say this, most of the FBI, they are good people. They're good Americans.
Yes.
Chris and I, we're very patriotic people, but to learn that the leadership of these departments, the Department of Justice and the FBI, are choosing the Saudis over us is nauseating. It makes me sick, and every American should be sick. And we are so grateful that presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard is the first one to stand behind us.
Well, I can feel the pit of my stomach. Acid's getting released. Just thinking about this, it's so infuriating. But what do you think it's about?
I think they're either one of two things. Either they're covering up their own malfeasance.
Yes.
Or they're covering up the complicity of a foreign nation state.
Yes.
Both of them are equally terrible.
But why would look, we're not, I don't want to get over our skis, but we do know the overwhelming majority of the hijackers were Saudi citizens.
It's way more than that, Tucker.
Yeah. Yes.
We have concrete evidence that nobody's talking about.
Tell me.
Our government has it. There's the 2012 FBI summary report. It's not about Iran. It's not about Iraq. It's specifically about Saudi Arabia. Our FBI has thousands of documents that they're keeping secret from Chris, from me, and from the American public that they're not releasing. This is not a woe is me, oh, I'm sorry I lost my dad, I'm sorry for this. No, this is 18 years on, and this is about truth and justice, and every American should be concerned
So the
about
report
this.
exists, and you just want to see it.
Our lawyers have it. But the FBI and the DOJ and the State Department submitted the information under seal. So how disgusting is that? Where Chris and I don't even know the name that are in these reports, but
one name. That's
there's
what
one name.
There's
one name.
One name of high-ranking Saudi official.
There's a high-ranking Saudi official. There's a hierarchy of command from senior-level Saudi official right down to the hijackers.
And you guys lost your dads on 9/11.
And we shouldn't know each other, but we're here together, united.
And our government is taking the side of the Saudi kingdom over you.
I wish we were lying.
I don't think you are lying, and I'm grateful that you're here, and I hope that you will come back, and I think it's worth pressing. I don't think any fair person listening to this could side against you in this. I really don't.
Thanks, Tucker.
Gentlemen, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is one of the very few demanding the full disclosure of Saudi ties to 9/11. Yesterday, she also called for ending U.S. military aid to the kingdom. She joins us tonight. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This is one of those issues I don't think is partisan, doesn't need to be, shouldn't be partisan
Absolutely
in any
not.
sense. It's an American issue. Why would the U.S. government ever side with the Saudi kingdom of all countries against our citizens?
This is the real question that's at stake. This story that we are hearing from the families of those who were killed on 9/11 pushes this issue to the forefront, where for so long leaders in our government have said, well, Saudi Arabia is our great ally, they're a partner in counterterrorism, turning a blind eye or completely walking away from the reality that Saudi Arabia, time and again, has proven to those who were killed on 9/11. For what? Where do the loyalties really lie?
So I was thinking in the commercial break of the number of people I know personally, not abstractly, but have had lunch with in this city who are taking currently money from the Saudi kingdom or their allies in the Emirates, the Gulf states. And I wonder if that maybe plays some role. Like, a lot of people are on their payroll here.
Yeah. You know, we talk about the foreign policy establishment in Washington. We talk about the political elite, the military-industrial complex. We hear things from some of those people. Well, you know, hey, we sell a lot of weapons to Saudi Arabia. So, you know, if we burn bridges with them, then who are we going to sell our weapons to? Where are we going to get that money from? Use all of these excuses that have nothing to do with the interests of the American people, with our national security interests. And that's, I'm proud and honored to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with these 9/11 families in demanding this truth, because, yes, it is about truth and justice and closure for all of them. Now, as we approach 20 years since that attack on 9/11, it's also about our national security, the safety and security of the American people.
I'll never forget, right after 9/11, living here in the city of Washington, our airports were closed, all airports were closed in this country, and learning that chartered flights of Saudi citizens had been allowed with U.S. government approval to take off and run back to Saudi Arabia without being questioned by authorities here. And thinking, you know, if I tried to do that, I'd be in prison. Why are we giving preference to Saudi citizens over our own citizens?
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense if you think about, well, what would happen if we actually had leaders who are putting the interests of our country above all else? You follow the money trail. Follows back to the military-industrial complex. You look at how many of the think tanks here in Washington who send so-called experts to go and testify before Congress who are funded by Saudi Arabia to spout their talking points. You saw how the legislation that we passed in Congress, I was proud to vote for legislation that allowed families like Chris and Brett's to sue Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia trotted out all of their lobbyists to say why that would be so dangerous for our interests, for them to be allowed to seek justice for their families. This is about standing up for our country. This is about standing up for our principles and our freedoms and for the truth.
Why isn't, so Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and she's obviously deeply interested in foreign affairs, and she's still talking about them, as you found out recently. Why isn't Hillary Clinton leading the charge on something like this?
That's a great question. One that is very current, though, is why am I the only presidential candidate standing with
That's a good question.
I'm serious. Every single presidential candidate, every single American should be standing with these families, standing up for the truth, recognizing that this attack on our country was an attack on all of us. I enlisted because of this attack on 9/11. I wanted to do everything that I could to defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. So not only, I feel personally invested in this, like so many Americans, but to see our government standing with Saudi Arabia, a country that continues to directly and indirectly to support the very terrorists who attacked us on that day, that is a betrayal for me, for every one of my brothers and sisters who have been killed in combat, for every one of these families who lost their loved ones on that day, the first responders, every single American has been betrayed by our leaders who are siding with Saudi Arabia rather than with...
I don't even see the other side to this debate. And by the way, anyone who has another perspective is welcome on this set. I would like to hear it. But
So
as of
would
today,
I.
I don't see it. Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Earlier